this seemed like such an intimate question, such a personal question. And it gave me pause. And I wondered, did my great grandpa see this and think, what the heck kind of question is this? Or did it seem normal? Why are they asking these intimate questions? Why are they asking these weird intimate questions? Like, this is the thing you need clarification on before you're gonna let someone become a citizen. I can think of so many other things that should have been asked. I think it was like 99.6% ban essentially on Southern Europeans coming over. There was something so crazy in this document. I truly did a double take. I was like, is this a joke? Hi, it's really good to be with you again. And I'm really looking forward to this video and sharing a little bit about this document. Before we do that, I'm Danielle Romero. Thank you so much for being with me here on my channel, where we talk about American identity and family stories. And if you've been on the channel with me for, let's say January, I really had a lot of trouble with getting flagged, getting videos demonetized, and things like that. Some of you very wisely suggested, well, there were a lot of great suggestions. One of them, though, was to try to lean more into merch, because I'm running this channel as my part-time job. I'm a stay-at-home mom with my 3 kids. I homeschool them, but I'm a history teacher, and that's what I have done previously, but I feel kind of constricted in the classroom for a lot of reasons. You really aren't allowed to be a teacher anymore. You basically are a puppet and you read through a script, and that's just not my style. And so one of the things that was suggested was to start trying to not be so reliant on YouTube for revenue and sell merch. And so Be a Good Ancestor merch, thank you so much for everyone who's been supporting it. It's been awesome. I have a new shirt on, but I just designed it. It just came today. And it says, "Be kind to me. I was born in the 1900s." I don't know. I think it's just hilarious to me how old that sounded. And I was born in 1986. Oh, sorry. I'm not used to wearing the mic. I'm used to like the microphone right there. I was born in 1986. My kids think that I was born, I mean, I can't even tell you how old. They're like, "Did you have phones when you were a kid?" And I'm like, well, not like you see phones, which is just really funny. But if you want to grab one, I haven't officially released them yet, but I just put them on the website quietly. So NewYorkToNashville.com, you can grab Be Kind to Me. And if you were born in the 2000s, good for you. I'm glad you're here. We'll have to come up with a shirt for you too. So I'm going to go over a document today. And this document was really hard for me to find. And it has to do with my dad's grandparents. I believe all 4 of my dad's grandparents naturalized in the United States, coming over from Italy, Southern Italy. And so you would think that there would be 4 declarations of intent to naturalize, but there's not. I only have 1. And it's for my dad's paternal grandfather. And I've talked about him a little bit on this channel. He is the one, if you watch the interview with my dad, where what we call the mob approached him to work for them because he was a bespoke suit tailor. He handmade men's suits. And the story goes from my dad that he thought about it and then decided not to do it. I don't know how that works, the whole offer you can't refuse situation, but as far as I know, he said no. And so I was working on his line a little bit, and I did find, my uncle might have given me this actually, his declaration of intention to naturalize. Now, what does that mean? Well, there's this misconception, I think, that when you came to Ellis Island or came through Ellis Island, if you had ancestors that came over from Europe, coming through Ellis Island, that once you got through that point, like, you're in, right? You're a citizen now. And that's not the case. You actually had to go through naturalization until my dad's grandparents went through this naturalization process. Unless you're a woman, we'll get to that in a second. They were considered aliens. And so they lived here, but they weren't American citizens. I did not find my great-grandfather. I didn't find his wife's naturalization, but on one of the census records, maybe I'll throw it up on the screen when I'm editing, at some point it says that she has naturalized, but I'm pretty sure that the way it worked, please correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the way it worked, especially for Italian naturalization, if the wife's husband naturalized and they got married. She was naturalized by default. There's something like that. So I want to talk to you about this document because there was something so crazy in this document. I truly did a double take. I was like, is this a joke? Like sometimes when you're doing Ancestry and you're getting your stuff just off Ancestry, you cannot trust all those documents. You do not trust the pictures either, because I've seen people put like pictures up of someone who, like a picture, like a photo of someone who was born like 1700, and I'm like, nah, like come on. So this is the real document. So I want to walk you through it a little bit. I'll put it up on the screen while I'm reading, and we'll get to the crazy thing. I'm gonna take a tea sip. I also have my mug. I went through a weird little purge here at my house. I've been trying to get rid of stuff, but one of the things I'm having a hard time getting rid of are my mugs. And I actually have like a full set of white mugs that I have on a shelf. And that's kind of like when people come over and they make coffee and tea and stuff, they use those. But I have a ton of mugs that are just like from trips or have my name on it or from a place that I like. And I love using them. And I can't really get rid of them. So you'll probably see a lot more of those as we're having this new setup here on the couch. Okay. So I'm going to put this on the screen while I am reading this. So it says United States of America, and it says Declaration of Intention. And so what's the intention? Well, the intention is to naturalize, to become a citizen. So it's a state in New York, Rensselaer County. So where I was born, Rensselaer County, the city of Troy, which is about like 2 hours north of New York City. And so it says, I, Frank Brignola, and it's funny to see Frank because his name that he had in Italy, I always get corrected on this, and then I still can't remember how to pronounce it, but I thought it was Francesco is his name. It says, age 30 years, occupation tailor, do declare an oath that my personal description is, that's funny, white, complexion dark. Isn't that funny? Like, like, calling people white, black, whatever, I think it's stupid, especially when it's like, I'm white, but I'm dark. Complexion dark, height 5 feet 4 inches, that's my exact height. Weight 170 pounds, that's not my height, or it's not my weight. Color of hair dark brown, color of eyes brown. Other visible distinctive marks, none. So basically they're saying, before you make this intent, we need to talk about like, who is it? What do you look like? What's your name? How old are you? It says, I was born in Durisano, Italy, on the 10th day of August, the year of our Lord, 1844. I now reside in number 1216 Fifth Avenue, Troy, New York, which is so crazy because I grew up over there, and I spent so much time as up till college hanging out over there, and I just had no idea my great-grandpa was over there, but there's a little Italy there, and so they lived in that little Italy. I emigrated to the United States of America from Naples, Italy on the vessel, I think it says Nuestra. My last foreign residence was Durazano, Italy. It is my bona fide intention to renounce forever all allegiance and fidelity to any foreign prince. And it goes on, it's like a state, sovereignty, king, everybody, but particularly, and this is what I love, to Victor Emmanuel II, or the third, excuse me, King of Italy. So he's like, I'm renouncing being under the authority of this king, of whom I am now a subject. So at this point, he's doing this. He's been living in America. He even, my grandpa wasn't born yet, but he's had kids here, but he's still under the King of Italy, but he's living in New York. It's just interesting how that works, right? So he said, I arrived at the port of New York in the state of New York on or about the 5th of April, the year of our Lord, 1904. Now here's where it gets crazy, what he has to promise to. He says, I'm not an anarchist. Now that makes sense, given the time, the concern about Italians, Sacco and Vanzetti, like all of that stuff. There's this fear of anarchy coming over from the Italians. But he said, I am not a polygamist nor a believer in the practice of polygamy. We're going to come right back to it. And it is my intention in good faith to become a citizen of the United States of America and to permanently reside therein. So help me God. And then he signed it, which is amazing. It's his original signature. I don't think I ever noticed that before on here because I printed this out. And so this was in 1914 that he did this, which is just crazy. So it was just crazy to me that you're going through all of this stuff and then they throw in this really intimate question, this really intimate detail. And they're like, and you promise that you're not a polygamist and you don't support polygamy. And it just seems so random. At least it did seem very random to me, because it feels like if you're going to have someone naturalizing and you're going to have, someone coming from another country and wanting to come over, there are a few other questions that I would ask before that, before I permit it. And of course, there are questions asked, at Ellis Island, right? They're checking you for illnesses. They're saying, who's your contact here? How much money do you have? And you can see a lot of that information as well. But on here, the fact that they're basically saying you need to renounce your allegiance to the King of Italy, which I think also means I can't get citizenship through this great-grandpa. I don't know. I didn't see one from my other great-grandpa, so I'll have to check. But he renounced it forever. And then he's also promising he's not an anarchist or a polygamist, and he doesn't believe in the practice of polygamy. And it just seems so specific. But you have to remember, at the time, there was actually a law passed, and maybe I could put this up on the screen too when I edit. So in 1891, which was not that far off from when this got signed, it got signed in 1914, the US government had rolled out sweeping immigration reform. And one of the goals was to bar undesirable immigrants. And one of those groups that were considered undesirable at the time were polygamists. And I think it was called, actually just stripped, the 1891 Immigration Act, but I'll have to look into that. But it marked the beginning of federally controlled immigration in the US. It was kind of sorting the fit from the unfit. And it was for the first time that a federal inspector kind of had a final say in this process. So it wasn't just polygamists, though, they were weeding out, although that obviously was high on the radar. It was anyone with a record of what they considered a moral crime, and anyone who they felt didn't align with American values. I don't know how much polygamy was really happening over in southern Italy. I don't think it's really a thing over there. But it just seemed like such an intimate question, such a personal question. And it gave me pause. And I wondered, did my great-grandpa see this and think, what the heck kind of question is this? Or did it seem normal? And, he's from a good Catholic family and, lots of kids. And as far as I know, only one wife, my dad's grandmother, Elisabetta. But this has really surprised me. And I was trying to research not the issue of polygamy for naturalization, but I was trying to research anyone talking about this coming up on, and I didn't really see anything. Maybe my Googling skills are just not that good anymore. But I just felt like that was so weird, but it's just down there kind of at the bottom. And I feel like maybe if you found this and you attached it as a record to your ancestor, you're not going to really go through it with a fine-tooth comb. And I have to say, one of the things I've been trying to start doing is, once I can confirm that the record belongs to the ancestor I'm researching, I'm printing it out. Some people are really good and they file stuff and they have it all organized. I do not. Maybe one day. But I love like the tangible connection, and I love seeing the handwriting. I can't believe I missed that the first couple times I've looked at it. So he became naturalized, and that's reflected in the census records going forward where they ask about naturalization. Now, what's interesting is that it seems like you would be able to find these pretty easily, but like I said, my dad's other grandfather came over from Italy, but he came over so much later. So there was a effective ban on Southern European immigration in 1924. I think it was like 99.6% ban, essentially, on Southern Europeans coming over. And so my great-grandfather on my dad's mom's side, he came over 1923, I think. Like, he fought in World War I. He was in the Italian army. He went to college in Molise. He was an adult. He had a life. And then he came over to New York. He immigrated in 1923. I'm pretty sure that he naturalized. I might have to check. I don't know. He was an older grandparent. He was born a lot earlier than my dad's other grandpa. So this has been really interesting. I have some notes that I just put on my phone about this. So I want to read a little bit to you about the history of this document. It's called The History of the Declaration of Intent. And this is actually directly from the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services website. So I can put that on for you. And I'll put it up on the screen a little bit too while I'm reading. But it says the Declaration of Intention is an American invention and unique aspect of our nation's naturalization history. As its name suggests, an alien declarant makes a declaration of intention pledged under oath that he or she intended to renounce allegiance to all foreign governments and become a loyal U.S. citizen. I just want to tell you a little bit more about it. So it says that this was the first step in becoming a U.S. citizen for 157 years. And it was ended in 1952. So it was 1795 to 1952. You went through this process of the Declaration of Intention, but submitting this, going through this process didn't mean that you were now automatically a citizen, but it was the first step. And it says that although the origins are obscure and undocumented, scholarly consensus concludes that the Declaration of Intention imposed a delay in the naturalization process designed to develop prospective Americans' affiliation with the nation and understanding, etc. So it's basically like when you're driving on a road and they don't want you going that fast and they put the little speed bump there, like that's what this is. It's basically to be like, slow it down, pay attention, make sure you know where you're going. We want you aware during this process to take your time and really understand what it means to be an American, whatever that meant, right, at the time. So it said making a declaration of intention resulted in a somewhat ambiguous nationality state for declarants. And this is interesting because you see my great-grandfather had to reject the King of Italy, but now he's rejected the King of Italy and he hasn't been accepted by the United States yet. It's like, that's a pretty precarious position to be in. It's a pretty shocking position to be in. I do wonder, did these immigrants, like my great-grandfather, did they understand that was it intended to work that way? And it says that there's probably no other step in the naturalization process that proved such a source of controversy and confusion. You can see why. It's like you belong nowhere at that point. That's scary. It's putting a lot of trust in the US government to take you at that point, right? So these people were called declarants. So it's like this, if you're thinking about being an immigrant and you're an alien on one side, then you're easing your way over the citizenship and naturalization. Now you're a declarant. You're like, I do declare that I'm, renouncing everybody else and I just want you, America. And then at some point naturalizing and becoming a naturalized citizen. The other thing that's confusing is that you also had people who naturalized who didn't fill out this form. So if you had an ancestor who naturalized, they may not have filled out this form, which I don't know how they got around it, but that's what it says on this website. I think it's also relevant to go into the Immigration Act of 1918, which I covered a little bit on this channel, but this Immigration Act was supposed to do a lot, but one of the things it was supposed to be doing was also limiting the ability of anarchists, and I would do air quotes if my hands were free, to come. And so the long title to that is an act to exclude and expel from the United States aliens who are members of the anarchistic and similar classes. That is the long name for this. One of the things I saw was that there weren't very many anarchists that got caught during this time. I think so. There was a New York Times article that said like they caught like 2 and maybe like 2 trying to come through and then deported like 50, which is really not a lot in the grand scheme of things. So then you have to wonder, were there really that many, or was this one of those things where there was just a lot of concern about it, but it didn't really amount to much? But there was enough concern. What I'd really like to research is the polygamy side, because I'm so curious about that. Like, again, I can understand the anarchy side, especially, things that, and I mean, this wasn't a form that was specific to Italians though, but it was a big enough concern that it was on there. But the anarchy, or the believer in the practice of polygamy, why are they asking these intimate questions? Why are they asking these weird intimate questions? Like, this is the thing you need clarification on before you're going to let someone become a citizen. I can think of so many other things that should have been asked. Let me know what you think. What should have been there on this document instead of, and it's on there twice. They're like, and we're serious about this. It's just so funny. It's so interesting. I love looking back on history. And I have to tell you guys a story. And it's like tangentially related, but it's finally feeling a little bit like fall here in Nashville. Like once the sun starts to set, it starts to feel a bit like fall. And I unfortunately don't live near any cemeteries where I have ancestors here in Nashville. Maybe I do, and I don't know that they're here, which is a possibility. But most of my ancestors are either buried in New York or they're buried in Louisiana, and my immediate family. And so I really wanted to take my kids to a gravestone for an ancestor. I wanted to just have that experience. I was thinking, we don't really take kids to cemeteries that much, you know? And I wanted to change that. So I brought all 3 of my kids to 2 cemeteries today. And I asked them, I wasn't like, taking them against their will to go, but I was like, do you want to go and look at some of the older stones? And it was more focused on some of the older stones. There's an old cemetery like a couple minutes around the corner from me. 1848 is when it was established. So we went there, and I could put some pictures up on the screen, but it like impacted my kids, especially my 2 older kids. So I have a 10-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 5-year-old, and the 2 girls are older, and then I have a little boy. But they were just so interested because they wanted to see the names on the stone. They wanted to know everything about the person. I'm like, that's how I feel. I'm like, I just love hearing the story, the life story, the history, and saving it. They're really into it. But they were really sad because the cemetery, one of the ones we went to, is really small. And it's actually, I think it had to get moved, which is, they had questions about that. I was like, I have questions about that too. But there's like a big plaza because Nashville is just like sprawling out. And so there was a plaza, and we were like trying to figure out, how is the cemetery tucked behind this plaza? It was actually really weird. It was like behind like the garbage area, like a water runoff. I was like, I didn't like it. But the stones were like, you could see they were mowing in there, but it was like the people who were mowing it must just be not caring at all. Stuff was broken, it was tipped over, you couldn't read the stuff. And so my oldest child was like, can we come back and clean these stones? And I was like, I don't know how this works. Like, I know that people do that, but you'd have to get permission. I don't know who to ask. I'm gonna have to look into it. I've never done it before. But they were so excited, and they were telling me in the car on the way back, and they're like, it's not even scary, I just love it. I love seeing their names and all this stuff. And I was just like, yes. I was like, oh cool, that's awesome, because I never want to like push my stuff on them, but I just want to expose them to things. And it was just really, it made my heart really happy. Oh, sorry, I just hit my thing. It made my heart really happy to hear them wanting to take care of the stones. And I thought, man, how powerful would it be for them if they were standing in front of the stones of ancestors, and I could really give them that information. I think we're going to go up to New York, which I haven't been up to New York in like 6 years, and I have never visited my great-grandmother's gravestone. I don't know how. I think maybe I just didn't realize somehow it was there, and I don't know. So when we go back, I think I'm going to take the kids to go see Lola's gravestone. But it's going to be after Christmas, so it's going to be real snowy and cold and terrible in New York. But I'm really excited. I want them to go and just have that. And I know some people are not into going to cemeteries, but I feel like if you're into family history, you're into genealogy, you're just into history at all, there's just you can feel there's something important about being connected to that whole circle of life. And I've always liked spending time in cemeteries. So I'm a weirdo, but let me know if you are too. And let me know what you think about this naturalization document. I need to do some more digging into it because I'm just curious. I need to understand the polygamy piece. I must be missing something, because it must have been just a big, huge issue for them to put it on there, or the person that wrote this just had a weird obsession with it. So I would love to know. Let me know if you know, and if you've been able to trace ancestors that immigrated to the United States. What kind of documents have you found? What should I be looking for? And oh, if you want to grab one of these great shirts, I just love it. I just love it. Right now, I think I just only have it in this natural white color, but I'll probably put some more up soon. And thank you, everyone who has just been here with me. I'm just so glad. And oh, also, if you made it to the end of this video, so I think I'm going to be releasing a book on Kickstarter, but it's not going to be a regular book because I can't do a regular thing. It has to be, it's just different. But, and it's short. It's going to have documents. It's going to have census records. It's going to be about my journey of reconnecting to hidden history. And it's going to be an invitation to you. If you were on that journey, hopefully something to feel like we're doing it together. But I'm doing it on Kickstarter. And basically, if you haven't done Kickstarter, that means that people back the project. So let's say I need X amount of dollars to make the book come to life, published, all that. People say, okay, I'm going to, support it. And if it gets fully supported, then everybody gets the book and all the rewards. But if it doesn't get fully funded, nobody pays anything and the project doesn't happen. But one of the things that I wanted to include as one of like the tiers is signed books with handwritten notes, and then like a private Zoom like book release party online, like an exclusive one, so that if you were at that tier, then we could talk a little bit about the book. There could be a Q&A live, like we're on there together live. And I just thought that would be so special and so fun. So I'm trying to work through all this stuff, thinking about it. But if you're interested in staying connected to that, I have a newsletter that I will send out information on to that. So it's just nytnashville.com. And I have a link to the newsletter also in the comments. But I'm really excited. I've always wanted to tell my great-grandmother's story as a book. And I've been afraid to do it. I don't know. It would be incredible, because there were so many things that she couldn't say, and it would be an honor to step into that space with the words that she couldn't say. So I'm working on that. So anyway, all I have to say, thank you so much for being connected with me. I hope we can be more connected in the future. Otherwise, we'll talk soon.
Over the last 2 years, I've been telling the stories that often get ignored. But lately, I've been facing an uphill battle behind the scenes of each video. My videos are getting flagged by YouTube when all I'm doing is sharing real history. If these stories have ever resonated with you or given you a new perspective, grab some Be a Good Ancestor merch and help me keep this channel going. Check out nytnashville.com.